Yes.
Hello and welcome to Conversations with Kat. I am Dr. Kathleen Walls, and I am talking with one of my favorite people in the whole world who I love to talk to. She is one of the most insightful and amazing people just to talk to on the regular. And so I'm excited to have her here on the show talking to you, Miss Tiffany Quivers. So please, Tiff, introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, hello everyone. I feel like Kathleen was describing herself there. I'm Tiffany Quivers. What am I? I am an educator, writer, most of all, I think an optimist. Kathleen is, as she said of me, just really insightful and has blessed me with her wisdom and guidance. But yeah, I'm just about people becoming their best selves. And Kat, that's probably why we both connect, wanting that for each other, but also for everyone, right, that we encounter.
Yeah.
So that's me. Yeah.
It's definitely it's that conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we talked about recently was popping popcorn and peeping patterns.
Yes.
And it tickled you then and it still tickles you now.
It really does. It really does.
So what is it about it that just tickles you?
Yeah, because it's we think a lot about living our lives on autopilot or it so steps on my toes, but in a way that prompts me to want different action, because you can pop the popcorn and peep your pattern in situations, and how rather than shifting it, we keep falling into the same pattern. But once we recognize it, then we can pop the popcorn and say, oh, I do have a different choice. I don't have to follow the same notion. But yeah, it really, when you said it, it's the alliteration, right? It's the popcorn and peep patterns. It's so beautiful, but also so spot on for how we get stuck in habits.
Yeah.
And practices that don't serve us.
And it's so visual, right?
It's so visual. It is so visual. Yes, I see you with your popcorn, like, oh, here Tiffany goes again.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. How did that work for you last time?
Right. And that's where it all stemmed from. So, one of my good friends and longstanding friends is Pastor Carlton McCarter of Victory International Christian Church down in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and now at Morning Star, also in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. So he's managing both ministries currently. But years ago when we met, and I was going through something, and he was like, Doc, you already know what to do. He said, at this point, you're in the popcorn phase of your life. And I was in the popcorn phase, and he was like, when you're in the movies and you sitting there, and I was like, oh. He's like, you already know what's going to happen, so you can just sit back and eat your popcorn because you know what's coming next.
Interesting.
And so, I had to put my little flair on it, with the peeping patterns situation. Yes. Because once you peep the pattern, then you know your points of intervention. That's a whole lot of P's going on, right? So popcorn, peeping patterns, and points of intervention. And that's it. And, it's interesting. I had a client earlier this week, 8 years old, God bless him. And he talked about how he kept falling into the trap.
Yeah, that's right.
And so he was saying how like his peers were picking on him. And so he just kept falling into the trap. And I said, well, then you peep the pattern. You know how this works. And now let's put it on the board. And I drew a circle. And it was like, okay, first the peers do this. And then what happens? And he's like, and then I react.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you react? And so we talked about how he reacts. So then when you do that, then what happens? And he said, then they respond to my reaction. Okay. And then how do they respond? And then we wrote that out. And then what happens? And he says, and then I respond to their reaction. And it was like, and then what happens? And he goes, it's like a cycle. It just keeps going on and on.
Yes.
And I said, yeah, that's exactly what it is. So then what do you need to do? And he said, I need to avoid the trap.
That's lovely. That's exactly right. That's right. And when you were saying that about Pastor McCarter's notion of it being in a movie theater, I was like, oh, that's different, because you do begin to peep other people's patterns and then their impact on you, like your 8-year-old client, right? Like there is a pattern that you're a part of too. These boys are doing this thing and it results in this thing. Yeah. So I thought about it more perhaps from myself than from the other patterns that people set that I get caught into, but which are which are also my own patterns in a way.
That's right. Yeah. So it becomes very layered, and we have to learn how to step out of our own shoes and out of our own lens and look at it holistically.
That's right. That's right. You know? Yes.
And so my husband always, go ahead.
No. I like husband advice or wisdom. What does he say?
Okay. My husband always talks about there's 360 degrees, right? Mm-hmm. And within 360 degrees, each point is 360 degrees as well. So you're always constantly needing to look at the situation from various angles and knowing that you are only standing at one point. It doesn't mean that.
That's right. That's right. I've heard that too, Kat, from a leadership perspective. I don't know who's teaching this is, but they talk about leaders getting on the balcony. So you get on the balcony to have sort of that perspective.
That bird's eye view.
Yeah, but I like your husband's thought better of that multi-perspective taking, right? So I'll go, and you pull me back in, but I'll go into like my pattern, which can be conflict avoidant, right? And in that conflict avoidance, I've been listening to all this stuff about how do you speak up for yourself? How do you make your points known? And one of the pieces that I heard was this perspective taking. So the thought of doing 360 perspective taking is very nice to me. Not just balcony that I'm checking out everything and then I go back into it myself, but considering the perspectives of another. He actually said as a key part to speaking up for yourself and also in negotiating or in dealing with conflict. That's so right. I like that. I like that, the 360, even the 360. What did he say? Has a 360? Did I say that right?
Yeah, it's at 360 and each point is 360 degrees as well.
Nice. Yeah. And that takes a lot of consciousness and not emotionally driven, right? Interactions or autopilot. Yeah. Say that again?
I said the reactivity.
That's exactly
what talking about. Because the reality is, right, if we go with the reactivity, if we go with the autopilot, then that means we're just functioning within our pattern.
That's right. That's it. That's exactly right. That's right. Oh, I think Baldwin has a beautiful quote about that I can't think about, because you're no longer, God, are you alive? I guess you're alive, but you're not present. You're not present. I'm just like, did, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my professors one time, he talked about, and specifically in regards to conflict. And I'm glad that you brought it up, because so many times people don't like conflict. But he talked about how whenever you're in a conflict, you go back to your first way of relating.
Oh, interesting. Yes, that's right. That's right.
So that, of course, when he said it, I was like, okay, what was my first conflict? Well, most naturally, it was probably with my older brother.
Right.
So how did I respond to him? And then I have to now ask myself, am I really responding to everyone else the same way I responded to him when I was like 4 and 5 or even younger? Yeah. Like, have I not matured in my conflict?
Right. That's it. Yeah, say it.
Right. So I had to check myself. And then whenever I entered conflicts, I had to check myself. How was I handling the situation, and how was I handling myself in the situation? So there's that duality piece. And how am I responding to the person who I'm in the conflict with? Like, there's so much, you need to be fully present and conscious of all the dynamics that are at play.
That's right. Isn't it true that the response enters our brain first from the back, which is the emotion, before it gets to the rational, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So I like what you said about it's how we first related to conflict as a child, right? And so my MO is typically avoiding, particularly if someone is a competitor, right? I'm going to try to avoid or accommodate. So this morning, without getting into too much specifics, I entered into a conflict much more from a competing place. And I was not as present as I would have liked. I was not as emotionally grounded as I would have liked. But I left the call feeling very much like I'd gotten some level of my power back. And that surprised me, Kat. Like, it was a Dr. Walsh, Kathleen. It was like a feeling of power and freedom, and even peace. So while I didn't handle it well, I think just pushing myself out of avoiding it or accommodating and just really speaking up and finding my voice was very empowering.
Yeah.
Now I just want to do that next time in a more rational minded perhaps way, and not too emotional.
And I'm glad that you said that, because I think there are gradations in growth. I know you'll like that. I guess I do a lot of alliteration.
I bring it out of you, girl. What else?
You do. That's that educator in you. So
I keep on the flip chart what you're saying. Gradient.
Just go for it.
Okay, go. No.
You know, and the reality is, as people are watching this, you know, I always encourage people to get a pen and piece of paper, have something where they can capture some notes, because you get engaged in the conversation, which is actually why Conversations with Kat, why we started this segment of the Dr. Walls and Friends show, because I would be having these conversations with people and they'd be like, wait, I gotta write that down.
Right.
Pastor McCarter would always say to me, he's like, girl, you have $1 billion conversation. From your mouth to God's ears to that couch. Let it happen.
Yes.
But that whole idea that there are gradations and growth. So when you enter that conflict space, all right, this time what I'm going to focus on is getting my power back, being empowered in the situation. And then you do the honest assessment like you did, and you say, okay, next time, now that I have that, you know, do I need to work on that again? Do I just need to focus on that? Or do I have that part? And then if so, now is it time for me to bring in this part of being emotionally grounded, whatever that means for you.
That's right. That's exactly right. I lost what I was going to say about that. I like the notion of being okay with learning this new thing, because I don't know how, because I have been operating as a 4-year-old in conflicts, right? If I'm relating back to the first time that I entered a conflict, and I keep in that, and I realize over time, and you hit midlife, you're like, hold on, there is a pattern that I can peep that doesn't get me what I want. The movie isn't playing that I want to see, right? And I think a lot about the woman I want to be, or the leader I want to be. Like, yo, this is not how we show up. So I like the idea of just because it does require practice. My heart beats sometimes, my mouth gets dry. Like, it's some anxiety, real stuff that I have to push through to get to a new way of operating, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. And I just want to say, Dr. McCarter told me years ago that my name was Success. So I just want to say
I remember.
So thank you for bringing that his name up. Yes. So maybe I should keep that in my head, regardless of what I'm in. My name is Success. You understand? Like, that's
who you are. So just like we talked about with peace, right? So that's
exactly.
Who you are. Yeah. So, and what happens is, I think sometimes when we hear those words, and I don't know, because that was 10 years ago when he spoke that over your life, right? We might be at 11 at this point. But when he spoke that to you, what was your idea of success then, and what's your understanding of success now?
That's a great question. I will journal that. That's so good. It was too big for me. It still is. I'm like, what? My name is Success, but what if I took that on, right? What if I roll like that? So maybe that's where I am with it now. Like, I'm gonna try that on. Like, rather than push it off, like, no, that's too big. At this point, I would say, well, let me try that on. And to your point, in whatever way that looks like.
Right. And so now how about that, right? So I love the fact that I appreciate your transparency. Again, why we have these calls, so people can hear it in real time, because this is how we talk to each other.
Right? Absolutely. Yeah.
So as you're saying it, this idea of conflict avoidance, so many times when people think of conflicts, they're thinking of something negative, like an argument, and avoiding that conflict. But really, what is a conflict? A conflict really is just something different than the norm. Right? It's just different. Yep. And so this idea of success, which people deem as a positive thing, may be different to you. So then therefore it is experienced as a conflict. And then you're pushing against it the same way as if someone were bringing an argument to you.
Yeah, that's true. Because I don't know the word. Can I take this in, or how do I process this? And if I can't, do I just sort of lay it to the side, which is again avoiding, accommodating. That is like, I will avoid this thing because I can't quite figure out. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. It's funny. I was meeting with a young lady the other day. She's actually a former student of mine at the master's level. And she's ready to go back and get her doctorate. And so I said, okay, what are you doing now? Where do you want to go? And so she's explaining, where she sees herself kind of short term within the next 5 years, where she sees herself in the next 10 years. And as she's talking, I'm like, yeah, I hear the words that are coming out your mouth and I comprehend them completely. But what you are really not saying is where you're headed. And what it was bigger and beyond the scope of her ability to articulate it. So she was only articulating that which she knew and felt comfortable with, but it was not in alignment with her true passion and purpose.
Got it. Absolutely. When you and that's sort of your gift, Kat, to be able to call out what's true for us and what we are sort of spitting out, right? Am I keeping it too small?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this whole idea of what success is, we have to move past what we were trained, again, kind of that automaticity of what we're trained and how we're trained to respond to that. So there was a time where success meant getting your high school diploma. Then it was getting your bachelor's. Then it was getting a master's. Then it was having a good pay, a government job.
That's right.
Family. There's these constant different societal expectations of what success means, but the reality is success is individual.
That's right.
And we have to get clear about that. And so we have to, going back to the whole idea of peeping patterns, how do we respond to ourselves and our personal truth and versus the conflict or that information that's coming from society, family, so forth, that may either be in alignment or completely out of alignment with our goals and truth.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? Because that creates some form of dissonance between what I am trying to operate within versus who I really am.
Right.
And again, I'm thinking about, does that jive with how we say like conflict? You either compete or accommodate or compromise. So I don't know if that aligns with that, but I do think you're onto something with when are we in conflict with ourselves, with our true selves, and are trying to be something that we're not. And then do we get to an age and say, oh my God, I'm somebody that I didn't.
Yeah.
Want? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Right. And then what do you do with that? And it's funny. So I've been talking with Dr. Grimes, Peter Grimes, who is a sports chiropractor over in Sacramento, I believe it is. And we do a couple conversations with Kat like every week, every other week. So they're definitely on the YouTube channel. And we've been talking about the I am and stepping into the vision, like doing vision boards. But then what happens when you start moving in the direction of that vision that you said that you wanted? And as you're getting closer to it, you realize that's not what I want at all.
Yeah. So this keeps coming up for me, like this to thine own self be true. And I think it's okay. So you can't bury that, because then you are in conflict with yourself. Like, this does not feel right. Like, I thought I wanted this. Like, this is all off, right? But we have to be willing. And maybe that takes a certain level of maturity, because it can be scary, like hella scary. I'm on the way somewhere that I thought was the right way. But that's the beauty, if we allow it, the beauty of life, all these side roads and wrong turns that, you just saw Badu. What did she say? I know my heart will guide me back. Your heart guides you back. And even through the experience, then you come back a better person or better prepared for the thing that you're going for anyway.
Honey, please. I mean, that goes back. You about to make me run and go grab my tambourine.
I was like, did any of that make sense? But it was good. It was clear in my head.
Right. So there's two things that come to mind with that. So number one, yes, it did make sense. All right. Because it goes back to that whole idea of what is for you is for you.
Just talking about that, you just like, yes, that's right.
I just texted you the other day. What God has for you, God has for you. Nobody can take it away, although it may appear to be delayed or denied. That's all about human perception and human time.
That's right, Kat.
Versus the divine time when you are adequately prepared to do whatever it is that you're supposed to do.
That's it.
And so knowing your personal truth, like for me, sometimes I get a chance to peep a situation early so that I know where I need to make the necessary corrections or adjustments or learn the necessary material, because I know as soon as that spend time or that window comes back around, it's time for me to jump into the space.
Absolutely. There's a trust element in that to your point, like there is trusting divine timing.
Yes.
Yeah. Patiently wait, like all of those things.
Patience and preparing.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, right.
That's exactly right. Yeah. There is some freedom and peace in that, if we can get there.
Yeah. And it's so funny. So So the second thing is, before this call, I had a chance to work with some 8th grade girls. And so
is this 12-year? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is it like 12? I'm intrigued by these. Is it 12? Is that 12-year-old girls?
Oh, no, at this point, they're about 14, 13,
okay.
15.
All right. Okay, all right, keep going.
So it's funny you mentioned 12 because I was with them earlier. So,
okay, all right.
But, talking about like these goals that you have and working and how they can help. And actually with both groups, because it was 6th grade girls I spoke to first and then 8th grade girls. And how the goals can be very helpful because they help you stay focused and they move you in a direction that you want to go. Now, one of the 6th graders said, but there's so many things that I want to do. And, in kindergarten, I wanted to be a police person. And in this age, I wanted to be this. And it was like, and that's wonderful. And you won't actually do all of those things.
That's right.
But you have to be clear on that you want to do something and that there's certain steps in order to go in that direction. There's things that are going to lead you towards those goals and there's things that are going to lead you away from it. And it's important to at least start to move towards them so that you can take honest inventory and then be able to say, yes, I want to continue to go down that path, or no, I thought that's what I wanted, but I really don't want that.
That's right. And I do think, I guess in 6th and 8th grade it's different, but I do think that some level of focus is required if we are to get to a higher point of excellence, right? I think Jobs says innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. Like you have to be like, I am intrigued by the shiny penny, or I get excited about new things, but to your point, you got to pull in at some point.
Right.
And how can I say what part of this works for me, what part of it doesn't, and then put my efforts in the part that does work, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. I volunteer in a GED writing class. I just left before we had our session. And they're studying Cesar Chavez, I think I'm saying his name wrong, and Malcolm X. And what came to me, Kat, and I don't know if this relates to our conversation, but we were talking about how they both dropped out of school. They both had these extremely challenging childhoods, but despite that became super influential leaders of change. And I'm just wondering with our young people, so they dropped, I think, 8th, 9th, so same age as your 8th grade group. Yeah, so I'm like, what? Whoa. I just feel like their success or their determination to still lead in really influential ways, there was no stop on that in a way that I feel like it is now. I don't know why I brought that up or what that has to do with conflict, but I think so much about, this notion of goal setting and what society says is or is not. Yeah, we used to breed these beautiful leaders out of untraditional, not traditional ways. It's not, they didn't go to college, they don't have a master's, they don't have a doctorate, but they're leading massive movements and influencing people in positive ways. Do you have any thoughts?
Of course I know how that really laughed so hard, and it was like, yes. And this is why you brought it up, because it's this it's this whole idea of, right, so we're talking about conflict and we're on that cusp of traditional versus non-traditional, right? And so there's a couple things there. So some of us, like our age group, is really on that cusp, meaning that we grew up without cell phones.
Right.
We grew up with typewriters, and then we crossed over to computers. We crossed over into having, whereas current generation, they do not know that cell phones never existed.
That's exactly right. They don't know what a dial phone is, like what is.
Right, they don't have a clue. Right, what rotary, they don't know that. So there's that piece. With that then comes the new way of doing things. So and then we have to look at it. We have to broaden our scope, our horizon. And so, like, I'll give you an example. So one of my 5th grade students who I taught back in the 90s, who I'm still in contact with, when I first asked, first day of school, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? She said, I want to be an archaeologist. So I'm like, okay, what's an archaeologist? And she gave me the full definition. I said, oh, you really know, like you've given some.
Not a game.
Right, you got it. Because you've done that, I will assist you if that's what you say that you want to do. So life goes on, and I always check in with her, and it was like one point, then she wanted to be a lawyer. And so I said, okay, fine. And so now she's older, she flies up here. We go around, visit various law schools, everything, connect her with one of my close lawyer sister friends. And, they develop a mentorship. And so she proceeds down that road of taking the LSAT and so forth. And she's like, I really don't want to do this.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, fine. What do you want to do? And she goes, I think I want to be a counselor. So I start laughing. And it was like, okay, fine. Well, I'll come back. Well, I'll assist you further. So goes on, ends up getting her master's in counseling.
Wow.
Absolutely loves it. Loves it, is very, very good at it, very insightful. And I just laugh. And I said, well, I guess you became an archaeologist after all.
I was thinking that exact thing. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So sometimes we have to understand again, talking about peeping the pattern, that you do become what it is that you're supposed to be, but from a societal norm, that wouldn't be what an archaeologist is. But she is being in people's lives all the time and discovering and showing things and finding things of value that people thought were lost or hidden or never existed. So I think it's very important that we get clarity between the traditional and the non-traditional, and also talk about peeping patterns. Let's put things in their proper context, because that which is referred to many times as non-traditional really is older than what is perceived or stated to be traditional. So we're talking about sound therapy, we're talking about color therapy, we're talking about massage therapy. Those things were around long before medicine was around.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? But that's considered alternative, and that's considered new age, and that's considered non-traditional herbs. They're considered, but they were around before any medication was around. So really, what's traditional and what's new age?
That's right. Absolutely. Kale. I'm like, people, right? Turmeric. I have Southeast Asian friends who like, what are y'all on about? Like, this is not new. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's very interesting the spin we put on things.
Yeah. So so that's part of it, right? So to get unspun. Get unspun, get back to the core, get back to the basics, get honest. And stop trying to take on cliches that other people say or that have just been thrown into the world, like, well, yeah, everything's got to fit into that, because some things are personal truths, not universal truths.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just processing all of that.
I know, I see. So
I'm trying to think of a difference that's something like we can respect, but we can also question, right? So she talks about all the traditions in her family, and she can respect them, but she will question if they fit for her. Does she want to be married because that's the expectation that has been put upon her, or is she in her heart, does she really want to be married? So you're right, how do we get unspun from the expectations of our family and society and just move into our own authentic selves?
Yeah. And I was just going to say, and to bring it full circle, again, that's that peeping the pattern. Because when do you get caught in it? Who is the one that tends to catch you?
Okay.
Because there's some people where you can say no and you can be yourself and you can resist and so forth. But then there's other people that come into your life where all of a sudden you feel like you have to conform, or you have to be in alignment with what they're saying. And so you have to start to pay attention to that. So like you were saying earlier, when you were able to, push your way into the space so that you felt empowered, who are those people that you need to put, and it's not so much that you're pushing against them as much as you are pushing and allowing your authentic self to be in that space.
That's right. And that's that taking up the space that is yours. I am after that too this year. Like, how do I take up the space that's mine?
That's right.
That's just real. And to not do that, I think we lose something in our relationships. We lose something in the world, quite frankly, if we cause people to not take up the space that's theirs.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking, right, you lose your voice.
Yeah. Oh, completely. Yeah, completely.
Yeah,
so, and over time, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. You said over time.
That's all. Yeah, I was saying then over time, once you lose your voice, then over time, how do you regain it? And how do you recognize it? That's about your growth, though. How did you the gradual growth of finding the voice again?
Exactly. Exactly. And finding points of intervention.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, 8th grader.
Right.
Your point of intervention. I like it.
That's right. And so that's it. And you have to find opportunities to strengthen that area. So, so
That's right.
when that conflict comes up again, whatever it looks like, it doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be a battle. It's just understanding that conflict is a difference where you say, okay, well, you're saying, I hear it, but I have a different opinion, or I'm standing at a different point in the 360 degrees.
Yes, that's right. I see this from a different perspective.
And that's all it is.
Yeah, that's all it is. But to your point, we've got to peep the pattern or what do you call that, Kat? Like when I recognize I'm moving back into it, right? I'm moving back into autopilot, some way to shut that down.
Right. Yeah. So it's that whole idea that you're moving out of consciousness or moving out of this moment, and you're moving back into reactivity or automaticity.
That's it. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And so growth is that it's that conscious growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Things. It makes me think about Mark Twain. I remember when in high school when they said, all the world is a stage. And the whole idea about you being actors, and it's this whole idea that you kind of have your script, and then you then find people to play their part, and as long as they're playing the roles that you want them to play, you get to keep playing your same role.
That's right. That's so interesting. That's what happened this morning, and that's what I've been sort of processing too. Have we been compromising, both of us, all this time, playing this very comfortable role? And I'm like, is that right or is that wrong? Because it almost was like it just worked for us. But now we're at a point where we've shifted. Like, wait, you're saying and I'm saying, so we're both meeting at this point. We can no longer compromise on this thing when that's been our mode of operating. That's exactly right. That's exactly it, Kat. Mm-hmm.
So that's your growing pain.
Yes, that's right. It is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm still processing that, like, wow, were you operating under some script, right?
Yeah.
Was I?
Yeah.
Was it authentic? Maybe that's the better question. Was it authentic? And I think it was, but I don't know. So what? Yeah.
Right. And those are those self-reflection questions that we have to ask ourselves in a non-judgmental way.
That's right. Curious. I'm curious.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm non-judgmental. Like, what is that? But yeah, let me just be curious about it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so many times people will avoid that curiosity and that honest reflection. I always call it honest inventory. Let's just really be honest about this. What is really going on? Many times when you're peeping that pattern like that, and now you recognize that it's causing a conflict, it's a negative conflict. Let me be clear about that. It's because you've stayed in it too long.
Yeah. And that's my pattern.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Again, that's a part of the avoiding and accommodating. We avoid, we accommodate. We avoid, we accommodate. You're right. So I teach a piece on this where we say, like, the moment something feels off, you have to say it. If the moment it's off, like, yo, this didn't feel right, can we talk about it? But if it's like 10 didn't feel right, yeah, then it is going to get to that breaking point.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah. Well, darling, I think we can stop right here. How you feel?
Thank you. Very good. Thanks, Kat.
Good. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your processing, because so many people process in different ways. And I think it's important for people to see that and know that, and to give themselves permission to process and be, as you said, curious.
That's right. So, thank you.
Now, I know I didn't even, some of the work and stuff that you do. Let's just give the people a little taste. Like if they want to hire you for some development and things like that, what's the best way?
I'm so bad with this, and do you know it? You must know it. I'm in the process now of getting all set up on that. I will give you my contact information to include in that. I'm just about helping people, creating the conditions within which we tap into the best of people, whether that's facilitation, whether that's some team development. But that's me. So I would be happy to share that information with you, Kat.
Yes. So we'll make sure we put that on there. And as you all know, you can find me on AskDrWalls.com or thegreatestcc.com. And as always, until we meet again, be sure to live your greatest life. God bless.
Thanks, Kat. Peace.